Okay, hi there everyone. I'm here to introduce to you some of my ways for improving in Rocket League, just to take yourself to the next level, improve your gameplay, how well you work in a team, etc. etc. Hopefully you'll be able to take some of these skills with you and apply them to your own replays, and in doing so make yourself a more complete player and hopefully rank up. So let's start at the very beginning. What do you want to learn? Well, you want to learn how to win as a team, how to reduce your errors in a match, how to retain pressure or possession better, how to prevent being scored on, and potentially how to score more. And you can approach this from two sides, such as what mistakes we made as a team that led to us conceding, and what mistakes our opponents made which led to them conceding. Both are great ways to improve your overall game sense, one of the hardest things to work on. Luckily, replay analysis kicks in there and can really elevate your level. The single most important thing to remember is to be hypercritical of both sides. This can be difficult when you have a lot of confidence in yourself, so a clever tip to use in order to mitigate that is to write down the things you think you do well beforehand, such as rotations, game sense, mechanical plays, how fast you are in the transition, or how well you support your teammates. I know that was something that caught me by surprise when I did my analysis, and in the end it helped me improve immensely in a very short space of time. So let's go on to then selecting a replay. When you select a replay, it's probably one of the most overlooked factors and needs very adequate attention. You don't want to some conky replay where you smash some team that was obviously tilted 5-0 and now you're like, oh, this is me at my best, what did I do right here? That's not gonna work. You could look at what the opponents did wrong. They also probably have a lot of things that were responsible for in that match. In that game specifically, they weren't at their level that they would have liked. So I would say go with a narrow loss or a narrow win replay. One where preferably ranked, so that the element of pressure is still there. The element of, hurriedness, where people are starting to panic, that is very important when selecting a replay. So take notes. You will want to grab a notepad because this can get quite long. I recorded myself doing an analysis on a 6-minute game and it came to 43 minutes in length. This was an RLCS Day 2 match. A 43-minute unpacking session. So what you do now is you pull up your list of things you do well and you pay attention to what you did wrong. Game sense, for example, is heavily linked to your rank and the players in your lobby. Having good game sense at Plat doesn't mean having good game sense at Diamond or Champ, because your opponents can do more things, they can save more shots, they'll be positioned differently because they can recover in different ways to help support their team. Having good game sense is knowing when to not leave the attack and knowing when to leave the attack, knowing when to stay in defense and when to push up on the opposite side of the field. It can be a very hard thing to learn and a very hard thing to get right, and also a very hard thing to recognize mistakes in. But that's why we're doing this analysis. Be as critical as you can from the approach that you can look at your positioning. Did you use boost to get into that position? If you did, you probably were out of position and used that to make up for it. If you didn't use boost and you were in the correct spot and you ended up beating your opponent to the ball, then by all means, that was great positioning. You did well. But that can also be a bad habit in higher ranks. Maybe you pushed up too far and it wasn't punished because someone whiffed in front of net, one of the defending players, for example. Now, having high game sense without the mechanics is a fast way to tilt as well as confuse your teammates, because they're not going to be able to read you. And ideally, when you're playing in 3s or 2s, the team that can read each other the best wins. So if they're constantly guessing where you're going to be and what you're going to do, they're going to have a hard time and think that you're a bad player, when you might not necessarily be one. Now, the same is true of them. Having teammates that you can't read is also a very tough situation a sticky wicket, if you would, to be in. Now, that's why a lot of the pros prefer having teammates that are aggressive, that are a little ball chasey, because they'll know, okay, this guy's going for everything. But then, because they are pros, they can also play that aggressive role if they see their teammate is more comfortable being more passive. So it's all about trying to be as transparent as you can. When you make your decision, you make it early so that everyone can read, even your opponents, which makes it very tough to beat them sometimes. That's why games get close. So then you want your transparency to be mechanically superior to the opponent in that moment. You want them to not be able to have any response, even though they know what you're doing. That is essentially pro level play, and that's the level you should always strive for. Now let's say you had great rotations. If your rotational play is way better than your team, it may be hard for them to read you again. Mechanics are wasted if you're too defensive and not joining the rotation on the counter side of the argument. So you're always going to have to find a balance for the players in your lobby. Try and read your lobby and try and understand each player's strengths and weaknesses. Take it from an analytical perspective. Imagine you are trying to figure out everyone's strengths and weaknesses and trying to play off of them, using them to your advantage. The next step being that you skip to a goal in the replay and see if there's a mechanical error in saving the shot, because that's obviously something that can be worked on. Or if there isn't one clear one, then scroll back a bit. Go back 10, 15, 20 seconds, try and find where the mistakes happened on the team that conceded side. Like, did someone take too many of the boost pulls? Did they take the boost pull instead of rotating back via the boost pads to stay in the play? Was there a lot of pressure generated by the opponent's team so that they could not escape? And if so, you do have to take your hat off and applaud that, because that is them playing at a very high level. And that's how pros score. That's why we have goals in RLCS. Additionally, if you are analyzing why your team scored, you should find that the goal wasn't perfect. There should be mistakes in the build-up that went unpunished, and thus you scored. This is probably the biggest mistake you might make, but by the same reasoning, your biggest opportunity to learn. Doing things incorrectly at lower ranks ends up ranking you up and rewards you with the false idea that what you've done is correct, and this is a bad habit, which, when repeated, causes you to rank down, and you may not know why. This is essentially why people go on their win-lose streaks. It's because that bad habit is being filtered out, but it's still present, and it does work on occasion. Our correctly executed replay analysis will help you unlearn those mistakes, and will always be high up on my list of things to do to improve. The nice thing about replay analysis is that you can put yourself in your teammates' axles, see what they were thinking, if they were thinking, what was their plan. And by doing so, you're going to get a greater understanding of the average player's mindset, especially if you solo queued. So, to wrap this up, in conclusion, I would say, try to understand what everyone in your lobby was thinking, what they were going for. Use a very close game replay, win or lose, and be hypercritical of you, your team, and your opponents. Identify habits that let you win, and try to be aware of them in your next match. And you need to be the harshest critic of yourself. So, that concludes my video. Thank you for watching. Please drop a subscribe if you can. It's free and helps grow the channel. You won't get notifications unless you tap the bell icon additionally, so they shouldn't spam. If you have Twitch and feel like hanging out, there should be a link here somewhere. I'll try and link it if I can.